All right, we are going to look at sort 56 of words, their way, syllables, and affixes, and this is a unique list. It is the geography syllable sort. And we're going to get quite into this one because a lot of these words might be new to you, and my class is studying some geography topics, so we need to know this well, and we're going to look at some maps and globes and figure out what all of these words mean. So here we go with the sort. And let's just start here with the map of the globe, and this is all of your continents and all of your oceans. So you can see if we zoom in a little bit, you've got North and South America, and on one side is the Pacific Ocean, and the other side is the Atlantic Ocean. And moving over, we have Africa and Europe, two more continents. And then there's a lot of little seas here, but here we've got the Indian Ocean, and we have Asia, the Asian continent, Australia, Pacific Ocean again, and then not on your list, but the Southern Ocean is down at the bottom, and we have Antarctica is the continent here, and finally the last bit, if we zoom out a little bit more, the Arctic Ocean is all the way in the north. So there are your 7 continents and 5 oceans, although on your list there's only 4 of the oceans. They didn't include the Southern Ocean. And I do want to quickly break down Arctic and Antarctic a little bit more. So let me draw a big Earth here with nothing on it yet. And we'll just focus on the poles. So the Arctic is the North Pole, and the Antarctic is the South Pole. And sadly, I don't have the color white. So I'm making this black, but imagine this is ice. So the North Pole, the Arctic, this is the North Pole, this is the South Pole. And the big difference between these poles is that underneath the South Pole, there's a continent, there is land. So there's ice in both places, it's covered in ice, but underneath the South Pole, you have land. And underneath the Arctic, there's nothing. It's just the Arctic Ocean underneath. So if the Earth got very hot and everything melted, there would just be water here, but in the Antarctic, there would be a continent underneath. So that's the main difference. And I didn't add any other continents on here, but I think we should take a look just quickly at these again, because it's pretty cool. So if we look at the Earth from the top, which we're not used to looking at it from the top or the bottom, from the north or the south, this is the North Pole, right? And you can see there's just ice there, and in the colder months, the ice extends to the land, so these places get icy too. This is called the Arctic Circle, this imaginary line here. But you can see how it runs into Greenland. This here would be northern Canada. We're looking at Russia over here, and Scandinavia. This is like Norway, Sweden. And Iceland is there, Greenland. But you can see the ice extends out to these countries. So nothing's underneath here but ocean, but it does run into the land in some places too. Antarctica over here, this is the continent, the dark black. You can see the ice is here. Sometimes the ice comes out to this area, is southern Argentina and Chile, Patagonia it's called. But mostly it's just ocean around this. And you've got, of course, this is New Zealand and Australia, and this would be Africa, Madagascar. But basically, I just want you to really understand these poles, the North Pole and the South Pole. And in our class at our school, we're going to be learning about exploration to these areas too. So moving on. The last thing you probably want to know about these two places before we do a new word are probably the most famous animal. Polar bears are North Pole, and penguins are in the South Pole, and a few other places in the South. But those are the two famous animals or birds from those two places. So moving on. Next, let's talk about the word peninsula. And a peninsula is land surrounded by water on 3 sides. And once you get that idea, you will see there are peninsulas everywhere. So let's just take a look at some. In America, Florida, and you don't need to write these all down, but I'm just giving you some examples. Florida is a peninsula. Michigan is a double peninsula here and the Great Lakes. There are a couple big ones in Mexico. This is called Baja California. This is called the Yucatan. And there are more, but let's just take a look at another part of the world. How about Europe? We have got Italy is all a peninsula. Spain and Portugal over here, this is called the Iberian Peninsula. And all of these countries here, this is called the Balkans, the Balkan Peninsula. Greece is the bottom part. Greece is also some islands, but it's a peninsula. If we move over a little bit, the largest peninsula in the world is this one here, and that is the Arabian Peninsula. The largest country here is Saudi Arabia. This is also called the Arabian Sea, by the way. And there are others, of course, here. This is Somalia. That's a bit of a peninsula. You could say India. Let's just look at one more. And do you spot the peninsula in Asia? There's a few of them. But Korea is a peninsula, as you can see there. And then Malaysia, too, along with part of Thailand there. Again, a peninsula. So they're everywhere. There's lots of peninsulas all over. But those are just some of the peninsulas you may know. But now let's move on to a few of these other words we're going to go through. And first, the equator is an imaginary line drawn around the center of the Earth. And you can see this red line is the equator. It's right in the middle between the North and South poles. And it's not really there. Of course, if you go to this spot on Earth and look down, there's no line there, but it's the line that's exactly in the middle of the Earth. And that brings us to the word hemisphere. And what I want you to notice about this word is you can see the word sphere in it. And hopefully you know what a sphere is, a round 3D shape. And hemi means half. So a hemisphere is really, for our purposes, half the Earth divided by the equator in this situation. So here we've got the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. And there's also a random line called the prime meridian, which runs through England, so it would be right around there. And that one divides the Earth into the western and eastern hemispheres. And we can use this map to describe one more, which is tropical. And the tropics are actually the hot area near the equator. And we can get very specific here. We've got 2 more imaginary lines, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, and everything in between those is the tropics. And the adjective is tropical, so like tropical rainforest, tropical vacation, tropical fruit. They all come from the tropics, which is this area here, where it is almost always hot all year round. Not always, but almost always. And let's just quickly get through 4 more words. So, climate is the weather in a place throughout the year. So not like on one day it's sunny or rainy. What is it like throughout the year? So for example, tropical is a climate. Those places are hot all the time. You could have a place that is seasonal. There are 4 seasons. You could have a place where there's a rainy season and a dry season. It just depends on where you are in the world, but that's the climate, the weather at a place throughout the year. Population is the number of people living in a place. For example, in Japan, there are 127 million people. It could be a country or a city. Scientists might also look at animal populations. So they might look at the population of polar bears in the North Pole or something like that. Environment we can call the surroundings of a living thing, a person, an animal, or a plant, for example. And finally, geography is what we're doing now, and it is basically the study of places. Of course, it's also people and animals and everything that's connected to those places, but simply the study of places. And that's about it for now. You can see there's a lot we covered here. But hopefully this helped you learn some things about the world, and I will put some links to some other videos for word study or maybe some other geography videos if you want to learn some more. And thank you for watching. Bye.